Hello and welcome to another episode of Addicted to Business. Today we are delighted to be joined by Callum McCormick. Callum, welcome and thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you very much for having me, inviting me to your show. Really good thing that you're doing. I'm looking forward to seeing it come out in the end. Some really exciting guests from what I've heard. So yeah, it should be really, really good.
So we're joined also by my co-host Stokely Howard.
Hello.
From Trendy Grandad. And today we're going to be looking and talking all about Callum's story. So I met Callum a couple of months ago now, and we met at one of Nigel Cushion's Nelson Spirit events. Is that right?
Yeah, just before Christmas.
That's it. And you were doing a bit of a talk there, and we had a good chat there. And then just after Christmas, we met and caught up, and your story was unbelievable. How old are you now?
19.
19. So the guy's 19 years old. I mean, we're all fresh out of nappies between us, but at the same time, 19 is next level. There was like 3 or 4 businesses. Incredible story, incredible journey, and that's something we'll touch upon today. So for the next 45 minutes, we're going to go through your journey, how it is you've got here, what it is you're doing now, and most importantly, as much value as we can give the listeners and watchers of this show. If they want to go on their own entrepreneurial journey, if you can do it at 19, you can do it. How old are you now?
24.
You can do it at 24, I can do it at 25. Like, if we can do it, anyone can do it, right? So these are some practical things that you can take away and take on your entrepreneurial journey. All sound okay?
Yeah, sounds great.
Perfect. So
Let's start from the very start.
Yeah, exactly. Start from the start. So when did you first know you had that kind of entrepreneurial flair? Where did it start? Were you one of those people that was on a car boot sale at 5 years old, flogging stuff?
Selling sweets at school.
Yeah, exactly. Like, where did it all start?
So yeah, I think throughout my early life, I think people around me knew that I couldn't go into a normal career. I think I was the kid in school who would randomly get up and walk around or throw a crayon in nursery, that kind of thing. Eat a crayon potentially.
A hooligan.
Yeah, a little bit of a hooligan. But with best interests at heart. Always had a smile on my face, and always quite a happy-go-lucky person. And I always questioned why things happened. I think it was looking back at videos for me when I was like 5 and Mum would be, or younger, 3, Mum would be saying, can we leave this there? I'd say, why? Always questioning why things had to happen.
Yeah, really.
And I think that's a big part of my mindset at the moment as well, and where that's come from. So I think throughout my entire life, and then I was always probably quite inspired by my brother. He went to school, he went to high school. He's 5 years older than me, and he did business studies, and he was really, really good at it. And I think it then became a kind of benchmark that I wanted to be better than him at business, because he would be the golden child of his business class, because I think we always had quite an entrepreneurial and business focused background. So then when I went to high school, I started really delving into business and wanting to know everything about it, embracing myself as much as I could, and getting involved in all the kind of different extracurricular product or things you do, like start your own business. And I think my first one, properly, I think we bought like 500 headphones in from China when I was in year 8, and then sold them through because every kid wanted headphones.
Dropshipping at 12.
Love that.
And so yeah, at 12 I was talking to Chinese suppliers who, like, I remember once I'd get like an email come through. It was like 3 a.m. They sent me a photo of General Mao, like, this is the founder of China. Started giving me a history lesson on China. I think that was their way of building rapport. And I didn't really understand that at 12, but no, it worked. We sold the headphones, and then I think from that moment on, I had the support of teachers and everything, because throughout school, a lot of people don't know, but I've got ADHD and dyspraxia. So the typical learning style wasn't really for me, and I always find a way I could be different. I guess with dyspraxia and things, you're not always the best at sport, and always wanted to try. So I think I was always trying to find a way to make myself different. And do that was by saying I'd openly look at people and go, I'm going to be a successful businessman. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and having the ambitions myself to put myself, while all the other kids were saying I'm going to be a professional footballer, my thing was I'm going to be the next Alan Sugar or the next Elon Musk or the next inventor of Apple, which I think, whereas some people look at disabilities or things like that as a weakness, but for me, I think that was where the initial hunger came from, to look to different ways I could progress forward by looking at alternative routes I could take to success, rather than the standard kid route of I'm going to be the next Lionel Messi.
This is it. And you look at someone like Richard Branson, right? He, I believe, is well documented that he had great challenges with dyslexia and everything else. And as you say, these challenges are actually gifts and opportunities, and it's all around mindset and perception, right? And how you perceive this challenge. And so many people would say, oh, because I've got this challenge, I'm therefore not able to. And we've got a wonderful guy working with us at the moment called Jack, who's got various strands of autism, and the way he approaches life and approaches work. It's phenomenal, and actually he's embraced autism as a gift, not as something that's going to hinder him. It's remarkable.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of talk recently regarding neurodiversity, which is looking at how things aren't necessarily a disability, but just ways in how your brain functions, and allowing that everyone, I guess, has the opportunities there to take them. They just have to go about it in different paths. So I look at
everyone's different, aren't they?
Yeah, I look to my brother a lot for this. He's just passed the bar. He's got a highly graded, like the top mark you can get in the bar exam, and he's got forms of autism. But the way his brain works and the way he takes everything has allowed him to be that way, and combined with support from mentors and people growing up. I remember when we was younger, he used to hear stories that he couldn't even go order a McDonald's for himself without crying because he hated social interaction, and now he stands up in front of a court, which is phenomenal. But it shows, I think, no matter where you are and no matter what challenges are thrown your way, everyone has their own challenges. Some people's challenges are medically, some people's are psychologically, some people are socially. And I think wherever challenge you are, everyone who's got somewhere in life and everyone who's achieved something has had challenges. You may not see them, they may not be as clear, they may not be as great as other people. Everyone has their own mountains to climb, and some people's mountains are different sizes. But I think it is possible to climb that mountain with the right mindset and with the hunger of looking at things, not as necessarily holding you back, but looking at everything in a kind of optimistic way.
I mean, we'll stop the show there, won't we? That's unbelievable. So we finish at you're 12. You've sold your headphones. Life's pretty good. You've got more cash than many 12-year-olds, I guess. And actually, you're building up a bit of. Well, I'm interested to learn a little bit about the sales process when you were 12, because obviously you wouldn't have had any sales training or been exposed to many sales environments. So how did you go about selling the headphones? What did you do?
So initially, set up a little network of people around school who were on commissions.
Love that. Some sales agents.
Like a gang, like a mafia.
The headphone massive. And they were going around selling. And then I also managed to rope in the IT stuff, because everyone had headphones in IT, because you could plug them in and then you could listen to music while you're making your Excel spreadsheets or your PowerPoints or whatever.
Genius.
So, and then as part of the deal, they would get a cutback to go back into the IT fund. So they were
referral partnership
yeah,
at 12.
I was going to say, like referral marketing
They were
scheme.
getting more money to spend on whatever they wanted to do. I'm not sure what the IT department would spend their money on, but and I was winning there. So, and yeah, going back to more money, I think that's when a FIFA Ultimate Team was big, and I think I've had a lot of with the
great
team
players.
and the season players there, which is where the headphones went. Maybe not the best investment, but
that's why you
never
gotta
know.
enjoy the journey, right?
But I think it was a lot of just looking where it was and seeing that people needed the headphones. I guess what you have to do in any business is see a need and see something where people have a real want for something.
Definitely find a problem and solve it.
Yeah, and solve it. And I think it was, just contributed by I had great people around me, influences, and going from that.
So you've sold your headphones. You've got the best ultimate team probably there is. When does the next entrepreneurial journey start for you?
So then throughout that, I was trying little things. And then I got to 15. And I was always really, really lucky growing up that my parents had businesses, and they had market-facing businesses. Like their business they had in Cambridge was a children's indoor play area with like slides. And as you can imagine, when I was 8, it was the best thing in the world. You were like the man, like let's go to a birthday party.
Birthday party's there, yeah.
Free slush puppies for everyone. And
baller.
Yeah, it was. I was a young version of a baller. And everyone wanted to play Kiss Chase. And then I think I was always really lucky throughout that, and I had things experience that I don't think you can buy. So I remember at 15, I used to walk around in like a shirt, and so I used to think I was like, manager, assistant manager, and someone pulled me over and was like, we're looking to do a private hire. And I was like, cool, we do these for adults in the evenings. Like as part of it, universities could come in and run around, or you'd have adults who would come in and do it for whatever reason they wanted. And this woman looked at me point blank in the face and said, the only issue is that we're a nudist society. Nudist society.
Oh, right, okay.
So we
in a kids play area.
Yeah, they were like, we want to have a private hire so we can. And 15-year-old me, I remember going bright red, like, and having to think on my feet that unfortunately for hygiene reasons and the costs incurred of us having to clean it afterwards fully, that I don't think that would be doable. And I think that kind of experience of thinking on your feet when you're 15 is invaluable. And I remember going into school and everything, talking to friends and talking to different people. And they'd say, how can you get this experience? Like, how are you able to get this? We've looked for Saturday jobs and it's really hard. But I then realised that I was in such a lucky position that I'd been given the opportunity that I didn't have to apply. I didn't have to go out and got there. I was given it to me, which is a really, really lucky thing. And then I looked as to how I could make that easier. So I looked into it, and I was looking into the likes of Indeed, Read, and what they do. And I was looking at the pricing of them. And I was going through, and I was finding we're looking for like a Saturday staff member with to do this, but we want 2 years worth of experience because it'd just be documented job ads.
Yeah.
And the pricing priced out your local fish and chip shop or your local pub who needed someone. So I then looked to set up I was working, and I started working at House of Fraser on the underwear department. Again, nice and glamorous.
Smooth.
And I was saving my money up to launch a website, and the website was called Working Generation. And what I aimed to do was to create a marketplace where it was cheap enough for your local business to employ people on, and it was accessible, that it was focused towards young people, so they wouldn't have to go on and go through loads and loads and loads and loads of job ads before they found the one, and kind of eliminate, I guess, that having to go around and stick your CV through a door. And because businesses obviously are a lot more expanded, they're everywhere, and there's loads more opportunities for young people to get involved, and as well as that, try and promote young people in the workplace, and companies giving them the opportunities, which I think, but still, it's something I'm a massive fan of, and
still a massive need for it, right? So where did that business go? Where is it currently? And does it have next steps, or is it something you've parked, or what's the evolution of that?
So the actual business element of it and the marketplace, it took off relatively well, but it didn't take off well enough to sustain, and it didn't take off well enough to become a real business. I think a lot of that was maybe my age as well. I was still at sixth form. I was still trying to manage it alongside it, and trying to go down for meetings and manage A levels and managing everything was a bit of a struggle. And still my competitive element, I think some people, if you're bold enough to, you may go, okay, I'm going to go all in on this, and kind of forget about my A levels. But I don't think I was bold enough to do that. And was a little bit more risk adverse, so I still wanted to try and leave with a decent set of A levels behind me, just as a kind of safety net.
Yeah.
And then it kind of evolved that it wasn't. It's kind of the chicken and the egg problem that you get with creating any marketplace, which is how you get one side on there when they're looking for the other side, and how you get the other side on there when they're looking for the other side. I think it was Reddit. They solved that problem by making like 8,000 fake accounts. And when they started it and having fake conversations, so it looked like there was more conversation going on topics.
So they look established already.
So they look established, but it's a lot harder to go there and make 500, 600 fake jobs for try and get students, or even make fake profiles, because then you're not really adding value, and it's just it's not, say, a sustainable business model. So then I was looking at how I could do that, and it didn't work. And then I just made the decision that I was going to focus on my A levels, and it was really, really hard. Obviously, being 16, 17, I'd invested, for me at the time, what was an enormous sum of money. And I guess what hit me more mentally was, obviously, when you have an idea in your head, it's the best idea in the world, and you think that everyone else is going to support it exactly the same way you do.
And actually, Mark Zuckerberg, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
they actually don't care in the actual fact.
Yeah, and I remember walking around. I'd be walking around, say, Norwich. I can visibly remember it in my head. I was walking up by View in Norwich. I was sitting, doing the sums in my head. I was like, if I have 1,000 companies sign up at £20 a month, it's quite doable. And then just jump into it. I'm going to be rich. And thinking, yeah, great.
Easy,
like 1,000 companies, easy. Like it's a good idea. Why won't they think it's a good idea? But then when you get to the logistics of it and actually running a business and scaling it like that, and people aren't always on the same wavelength as you, or don't think in the same rational way that you do, then it's a lot harder to grow. So for me, it was quite a tough pill to swallow, in the sense, obviously putting the time and money aside, but also the fact that I was lacking my own judgment. And I had this thing in my head that you only get one opportunity, that you can't come up with an idea that you think is great multiple times in your life, because it's just not doable. And this was my one opportunity, and I've blown it. I don't know what to do with it now. So that was quite a tough pill to swallow. So I kind of left it alone and focused on my A levels.
Do you class it as a failure?
No, not at all. Now I look back on it, I learned so much from that, and it's kind of what opened me up to doing things like this and to sharing my journey, because I didn't realise it at the time, but there were so many people looking at me going, "You're 16, you're doing this. It's really, really amazing." But for me, it just felt like the natural thing to do.
We learn so much more from our failures than we do our
Yeah.
successes. It's
This is it,
unbelievable.
I've always said there's no real failures as such. They're lessons, right? They're lessons.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like you said, you would have learned much more from that experience there than you will from some of the successes you've gone on to have, and we'll come to those in a second.
It opened up so many more doors for me as well, and gaining the exposure it did in making the contacts that I still use, and people
So
who still
valuable.
support me today, which is not a failure at all. And hopefully it's still it's not backbone. Now it's more what I'm doing socially. It's kind of the
Yeah.
backbone for what I'm doing socially, which is, and what I really want to try and achieve is supporting young people and enabling young people all have equal opportunities. For me, I think young people having equal opportunities shouldn't be something that people have to work for. I think, there's always going to be people who know people and you can't stop that. But I think having every young person should be able to have an ambition. And I'll go around to some schools, and I was at school and just talk to them, and their ambitions are to, let's say 15, 16-year-old, and it would be to support my family.
Yeah.
And that's all they can see, because that's all they've ever known.
Yeah.
If you asked me when I was 15, 16 what my ambitions were, it was to be a millionaire, because they're the kind of goals that people had instilled in me. So I think a lot of what I'm trying to do now is be able to help people raise their ambitions and realise that there is more than they know. And if they can step outside, and if they can put the work in, and if they can put the effort in,
So you can get out of the comfort zone.
yeah,
right?
if they can get out of
the
their comfort
opportunities are
zone, then the
endless.
opportunities are there.
They're not thinking big enough, essentially.
Yeah, which isn't their fault. It's how you're a product of your environment.
Yeah, exactly right. All about your
Yeah.
environment. So there's a guy called Jack Parsons. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, I've seen him
Yeah,
on
if you don't know
LinkedIn.
him, you should connect with him. Like he also does a lot for young people, and if anyone listening, you should check him out. He's a great guy doing some really remarkable things. But I think what I'd be really interested to learn is, you've obviously had an environment of kind of entrepreneurialism, and there's entrepreneurship in the family. What motivated you then, and what motivates you now? Because for some people, money's a motivator, and for some people, it's definitely not. For some people, it's making significant change or changing lives or whatever. What is it that's your?
What's your
motivation?
why?
For me, my why when I was younger, say 15, 16, and I was creating Working Generation per se, was the money element. And I think as any young person is, money was a big factor. And then I went through, and over the past kind of year or so, I've realised that you can have money, you can have success, and it's a big thing. What I talk about is, what is success? Success is personal to everyone themselves. Obviously, the reason people launch businesses, you want a business to be successful, is because you want to have a nice lifestyle. But I think there's a lot more to what I'm trying to do than money. Obviously, money comes with business, and it's a driver for business. But for me, a lot more. I think I've seen a lot of people recently who, I think, look at the weekend, Kobe Bryant, who passed away young. I think it's about leaving a legacy, and about making something that the outcomes of aren't just affected financially.
Because people don't remember him being rich, do they?
Yeah.
They don't go, "Oh, Kobe Bryant, the rich guy." They remember all the things he's done, all the things people he's helped. That's
A remarkable guy
Ultimately.
that changed many lives and actually
Yeah.
set a blueprint for basketball as we know it today, right?
I think
Yeah.
there's a quote from him I saw. It's the greatest thing you can do is inspire other people to believe they can be great in what they do.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really powerful thing, because essentially money, it's there. And I learned quite quickly that money isn't the route to happiness at all. Money, you can have it. I've seen people with money and they're not happy. But I think what makes people happy and what drives is, and for me, is one, knowing I'm having an effect. So I'll honestly have the biggest smile on my face if I get an email back from, say, one of the schools I've been into, or even in my recruitment, I've had candidates who've gone, "Callum, you're actually a really, really decent guy. Thank you for your support." And knowing that you've had that kind of effect on someone's life, and knowing that they could then go on to inspire other people positively, is an unfinancially measurable success, because you don't know what they're going to go on to do. You could deliver. Someone could watch this podcast and go out and be inspired to create a cure for cancer, or generate the way that the world's going to face the climate problem.
Yeah.
You never know
I
what
hope
these.
so.
Yeah, I mean that'd
Yeah.
be great, and you may never know that you've done it. You may never know that they've watched it and they've done this, but the effects you can't kind of realize in any way. But they could be so powerful, and that is a way of you having an influence not only on yourself but on a community and on the world and our generation as we know it. Which there's a lot of people, especially now, who are very intent, and I guess with social media and things like that, jealousy comes into a lot of it. And people don't like to see other people doing well. And if they can find a way to talk about them behind their back or
put them down,
whatever, they will. But for me, we're all going to die. It's a fact. And
we're dying now, if you like.
Potentially.
Buried in the same size box.
Who knows? Who knows what could be in store for any of us? But the chances are, none of us aren't going to go down in history, and we're not going to have statues made about us, because hopefully we do. Who knows? But the odds aren't really in our favour.
I'm going to make one before I die.
Yeah.
So it's there, actually.
Yeah.
So coming on to like negativity and what most sort of entrepreneurs and inspirational talkers and business owners all have this, and there's all one common sort of thread between us all, is someone always says to you, you can't do this. Someone always says that to a business owner. Have you had that sort of negativity through your entrepreneurial journey? People said, you're too young, what do you know? What's that been?
I remember once I was going home, and it was the night before I actually launched the Working Generation website, and there was someone at school. I was really excited. I was like, got a whole night to do. I've got to get everything in store tonight. And they're like, it's not going to work. And for me, it was, why are you saying that? Why are you not saying, how can we help? Because what benefit do you gain from looking at someone negatively and trying to hold them back? Nothing. If you have an idea of if you think it's not going to work, why don't you think it's going to work? Tell me constructively, and so we can try and make it work. I guess people saying you can't do it, for me, is kind of a driver in a way. I get it quite a lot. Yeah, you're young, what do you know? Especially from some of the kind of older say people in the industry will try and talk to, say, clients, think, oh yeah, the company's run by a young boy, what does he know? But you look at, people judge experience as well, that I've been doing it for 20 years, I must know everything about it. If you look at all of the big companies that have grown from nothing, say Mark Zuckerberg, he had no history in working for social media. He was at college. He's gone on to create although he's a really, really smart guy and could code, he had no kind of experience within MySpace. He hadn't worked for MySpace or any of the competitors. He'd gone on to do it and start something fresh. And you look at a lot of companies who have disrupted marketplaces. The guys who started Airbnb, they weren't from a hotel background. They had just been renting out an airbed on their floor and saw a problem they needed to change and launched it. I think now, business, I think maybe 40, 50 years ago was based on experience and, I know the ways around the industry. I know there's people in the industry.
It's quite old-fashioned, that though, isn't it?
But now I think it's more about how you can disrupt an industry and how you can bring value. I think the biggest kind of business change we've seen over the last, say, 10 and we'll continue to see is people demanding value. And I think it went through a period where people would say they're doing value. Look at most big companies' websites. They've got, we're such a great company. We do this, that, and that on their website. And it's just been made up by a copywriter in the marketing department.
It's just fluff, right?
Yeah, it's just fluff. But now I think people are moving more to, they want to see people documenting it. They want to see evidence of it. People are demanding more to know that you're not just here for the business. You're actually here to give value. And that's something that I'm really, really trying to push across all I do, is ensuring value is delivered and then asking for, and then looking to make money. I think that's how you create a long-term business. And I think if you can find the right business delivering value, then you're on a really, really, really good stint ahead of you. I think it's just working out where you can deliver value and how you can grow that into a business. If
you're seeking money at the forefront of your mind, then it's just never going to work.
If you chase the money, it won't come, right? And one thing you touched upon there is around sustainable growth and around kind of paying it forwards, right? So doing some CSR or doing some charity piece or doing something more that gives back. And a lot of kind of correlation to that is from the first podcast of this series, which is around mentorship. So we had Neil Adams, a good friend of mine and my first ever mentor. And I believe from conversations we've had, you've had a series of mentors. What do you think is the importance of a mentor and how did they shape your journey?
I don't think anyone, I think everyone has mentors in their life that they don't necessarily appreciate at the time. I remember my head of house at school, he said, there will be teachers throughout your time and people from your younghood, from your youth who you don't realise at the time, but will go on to be a person who, when you look back 10, 15, 20 years time, you really look at and go, wow, you did have a significant impact on my life. I see the way you've shaped me. And for me, there's teachers, that teacher in particular, who I still stay in contact with. I'm going back to my old school to visit them in a couple of weeks. And I don't think you often realise at the time. Obviously, you can get labelled mentors who can be really, really great. I know we spoke about Nigel Cushion. Yep. And I remember for my first time meeting with him, he he's a really, really clever guy. He started drawing out things doing his little graphs and talking about your strengths and weaknesses.
Loves a graph.
Yeah,
Great
and
guy.
and with it, after half an hour, it made me realise where one of my weaknesses was, which was more on the emotional intelligence side of not necessarily always being understand why people don't see things the way I do. Or it happens quite a lot when I'm trying to explain something. For me, it will just come into my head that this is how it's done. Why can't you see it the same way I can? And instantly, within half an hour with him, he'd outlined that to me. And it's something when it's visible on your mind, you can work on it. But I also think, for me, I was always really, really lucky. But I had great business mentors in my family. My dad and my uncle both have had their hardships and have gone on to overcome them. And in business, I guess, for me, mentors have come from seeing real life examples of not giving up and always having the desire that you can go on to do things, as well as more labelled mentors who have shaped me more in a business way and how I look at things in a business point of view and how I conduct myself in business. So I think mentors, you can't do it on your own. And although there may be people who go, I've never had a mentor because you haven't asked for one, but there have been people in your life who you may not realise it at the moment who have really, really made an impact on you. And if you can recognise it and talk to them more and explore more with them, I think it's more valuable because it's always easier looking from the inside out. You're always going to have kind of rose-tinted glasses on how you do things in your head, and sometimes it's hard. I often have it where someone will give me advice, and at the time I'll dismiss it, but it will stay in my head. And afterwards, say a couple of weeks afterwards, it'll resonate with me and I'll go, oh, thank you, I really thought about that. I guess that's the same for a lot of people. They never like admitting they're wrong in the moment, but 100%. Afterwards on reflection, you see it. So I think it's important to realise the value other people can have over your journey. And there's a lot of people try and tell you what to do. And I don't think you should ever let anyone tell you how to do things, because part of you doing it is you knowing it. But I think people pushing you in the right direction and giving you the information to make informed decisions is a real value of a mentor.
I mean, proper mentorship is holding the mirror up, right? Essentially, you've got the answers, but it's how they can get those answers out of you without giving you the answer, because you won't learn as much by simply saying, this is what you do it this way, because what's worked for someone else might not work for you. But it's kind of holding the mirror up, challenging, calling you out on things, asking why, being inquisitive. And it sounds like you have a lot of those traits, so potentially a career as a mentor later down the line. And one thing I'd like to discuss with you is if you've been mentored and you've gone incredibly far in such a short space of time, do you plan to then pay it back and mentor others as you continue to grow your business? Yeah,
I think that's something I'm working on doing now with going into schools and talking to young people, and working specifically. There's been people I've worked with specifically who have say ADHD and things, who really who want to achieve and want to go on, and working with them. I guess the way I've found going into schools and stuff has been beneficial to me and to students is I was in school 3 years ago. I remember sitting in school.
They relate to you.
Yeah, I remember sitting in school and some 40-year-old man would come in and you'd be thinking, I remember in year 9, we had some guy come in and started trying to tell a bunch of 13, 14-year-old boys. Maybe if he does, I apologise.
40 is young, by the way.
Yeah, 40 is young. telling us that we should start running Excel budgets and budgeting our pocket money and to 13, 14-year-old boys. I was like, that's not going to resonate with us because all we're thinking about is the school tuck shop and what FIFA Ultimate Team player we're going to get later. So I think trying to connect with people on issues that they know and they care about is so valuable. So I think what I'm trying to do while I'm still young, and it feels like I'm getting older by the day, and I'm still scared about grey hair popping through, is try and use my youth while I've got it to try and inspire young people that you can achieve things in, say, a short space of time, and I understand what you're going through, and trying to use that initially as a mentor kind of thing, that I know how it feels to be your age because I was your age 3 years ago.
Let's develop that point on inspiration, because for those watching and listening, I'm sure they've already been incredibly inspired over the last 20 minutes, half an hour, however long this has been. But what are the key things someone can take out, right? If someone listening here is about to embark on their own entrepreneurial journey, or I meet a lot of people that are on the edge, and by that I mean they're in employment or they've got an idea, but they can't pull the trigger for whatever reason, right? They just can't do it. What advice would you give to them to kind of help them on that journey?
I think the first thing is something that everyone really needs to take a look at, and something that I think we've all been guilty of at some point in our life is judging too much about what people think of you. And I think the growth of that has come from social media, has come by the more interconnected society as it gets. And it may be that you're scared about what people think of you and what people are going to be saying behind your back. But I guess it comes back to one of the points you made earlier, that people shouldn't be doing that. And obviously it's more of an understanding needs to come. But the second you stop caring about what people think of you, the second you can start to make more informed business choices, the second you can start doing what makes you happy. And ultimately, success for me is happiness. I think that's the ultimate success that everyone wants, and what makes people happy is different things. But if you can stop caring what people are thinking about you and looking at how they're going to judge you, then you can do the things that you're going to want to do. You're going to be prepared to take that risk. I think people are so concerned that, I know I'm still get guilty about it on different things, that, wanting to be able to maintain the lifestyle that I've got potentially. And I was really, really guilty of that, say, a couple of months ago, because I didn't want to see people to see me falling. But obviously in business, it's a roller coaster, and sometimes you have to take a step back
and
to invest into other things.
Right? And that's something that I think that's a lesson, whether you're going into business or not going into business. Just take away one thing from today is exactly that, right? That you're in a race, but there's no one else in the race, right? You're in a one-horse race. You can't lose. Like, no matter what you do, you'll be fine. Right? You just need to stop comparing yourself to others. And I had this conversation with Nigel and other mentors of mine to say, like, actually, stop trying to benchmark yourself against people 20, 30 years older, further on the journey, because it will just cripple you, right? You constantly think you're not good enough.
People are comparing their day one to their day
100%. I don't have this £5 million agency. I don't have this super nice car. I don't have this amazing 10-bedroom house. Well, that person over there has been in the game for 30, 40 years. You're 19 years old. You've done more than arguably any 19-year-old I've ever met. I think it's incredible.
Yeah, it's a lot of it comes from as well. I think going back to it, there's so many now overnight successes, and sign up. I started Forex
Facebook
trading, and now,
overnight,
and now I'm making £150,000. No, you've rented a Lamborghini, and you're trying to impress people. And I think people, and even when they look at people, necessarily say like myself or yourself, your guys, they see they've come out over nowhere, because people only start making an impact is when they're doing well. You don't see the way back in the journey when I was 12 and the start of my journey and having to compensate for not being able to play football by trying to be in business and learning about business. They don't see that it's been, for me, it's been what I've been trying to do literally my entire life. So for someone who may never have thought about business until a couple of months ago, or may have only just had an idea, I've been quite lucky that I've had ideas and things come throughout my whole life. So it's all been a journey, and it's got me to where I am, and no one can predict where tomorrow is. And you never know when you could fall down. So people looking at people who necessarily have been on the journey for a lot longer than them, they don't know what tomorrow's got in store for that person, and they don't know how long they've been doing it and what's been going on beneath the covers where they haven't been able to see it.
So what would you... It's been a remarkable journey, and it continues to be a remarkable journey. And the nice thing is this is just a start, right? And hopefully in Series 10, 12, whatever of this podcast, I mean, even if we chat again then, there will be remarkable growth. What's the biggest thing you would change?
The biggest thing I would change? I think a lot of what I'd change is growing up. I think going back to one of my previous points was...
I realise you can't change growing up.
Going back to when I was growing up.
That's not a possibility.
Skip the first 18 years. I think the biggest thing for me is what I struggled with massively was that point of caring what people think of me. I think growing up, where I always had to try and be the extrovert, because I didn't have necessarily the other... when you're growing up, your social status is designed by, or your
trainers.
It's designed and how good you are at sports. And I never had that, so I was always the extrovert. I always had to go ahead and really try and make an impact for people to be noticed, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think that created a lot of thing where I'd always have to be seen to be this happy person who's doing these things to try and make up for that. And I think that then led to me to caring a lot about what people thought of me, and it influenced, I know in my younger days, a lot of the decisions I made. And were they the right choices? Probably not. But have I learned from them? Am I in a different place now? I'm completely different. And
do you regret any choices?
I don't think you can ever regret anything unless you've done something obviously heinously bad.
I think the only things you can
yeah.
regret is not doing something.
Yeah,
you know?
I think you regret not doing things, but equally, you've got to know that every decision you have made in your life has got you to where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you feel like you're at the end of your journey, or whether you're on the start of it, or whether you're halfway through it, or whether you feel that you've made mistakes and you don't know what to do, you're at the start of something new. Every decision you have made has got you to that thought process. So if you're sat there thinking about what you've done, then you're already kind of halfway there, because you're reflecting. And if you're having regrets, then you're contemplating on what you've done and the challenges you've faced, and you're learning from it. So as long as you are at that stage where you are reflecting, then I don't think you can regret anything, because you never know what could have gone differently and where you could have ended up if you hadn't made those choices. It's a kind of it's a lottery, I guess. So you just have to embrace everything, learn from it, and appreciate where you are, because everyone, especially 99% of the people in the UK, are in an amazing position compared to millions of people around the world. You know,
this is a massive point, right? All around perspective, and while it may seem doom and gloom, we're in like the top 5% of people in the world in terms of prosperity and everything else. So a bit of perspective,
even being
would
here
be amazing.
and being
Exactly,
alive.
being here today with running water and food and everything else. One thing you touched upon, which is really interesting, is around the extrovert piece and how you almost had to be the life and soul to fit in. Right,
Yeah.
and that's something I really want to explore, because that's something that's very personal to myself and my own set of challenges and to many people listening and watching, and that's around when you're running a business and in life, actually, you have to wear different hats, right? You have to wear different hats to sometimes fit in, and one thing I'm interested in exploring in young people is again, as I try to inspire the younger generation, is why they have to wear those hats. And are they comfortable wearing those hats? Because I see all the time people making decisions and doing things and behaving in certain ways, but possibly they don't want to behave that. And I always say, like, who is the real Nathan? Right? Who's actually met the real Nathan? People listening here, is this me speaking now? Is this the real me? Or is this another version of me? And when I speak to you guys and we go for dinner or whatever, is that the real me, or is that another me? And there's a lovely lady called Lou Chi who'll be joining us on a podcast in a few series' time, and she talks about there's 7 or 8 variations of her. Do you buy into that philosophy? There's multiple versions of you, and have you had to almost be on occasion a different you, which is not something you wanted to?
For sure. I think in business you're constantly dealing with different kinds of people, and you're having to put on a different face. For me, the biggest thing is I'm really lucky that I have a really, really supportive and relaxed family environment. So growing up, obviously, with say ADHD and things, you have to learn there's certain behaviours and stuff you can't do in business. And sometimes your brain can be a little bit impulsive. You learn, and it's an exhausting task to always be trying to stay calm and level-headed. And I'm dealing with, in my recruitment, some really, really senior figures of some of the biggest companies in the world. And you can't be obviously how I am, and
down the pub.
Yeah, I've got a tick. You have to learn. When I was growing up, I had a tick disorder that I've learned to manage, which would be sometimes I'd say random things, or I would, and you can't obviously they'd be looking at who's this guy who's just said this on the phone. So you have to learn to manage it. And I think this is also touching back on people don't always see the visibility of the challenges people are going through. But for me, it's an exhausting process. So when I get home and I'm relaxed with my family, I can let my guard down. I'm a completely different person, you know. I'll walk around and I'll say something random, or I'll just flick something, or just something impulsive, like the most random
things. Is that not a
things.
great shame, right, that people aren't seeing the real you? Because the you we see is incredibly inspirational and a great guy. And I dare say the person that's at home when the guard is down is also a great guy. I always found this at home, right? So people would come around our house as a family, and we would clean the house head to toe, right? We would spend hours.
Absolute
the whole
nightmare.
morning, right? Sunday morning is off. You get up at 8 o'clock, so you can't have a lie-in, especially if you've been at school all week. No lions on a Sunday. You're up, you're spring cleaning the house, right? Because at 12 o'clock, you've got some family member coming round, and you're painting a total lie. Right, we don't live like this. This isn't normally polished. There's normally dust everywhere. The Hoover normally lives in the middle of the hallway. Like, but we create this fake life. And actually, I've always challenged my parents on that and said, actually, the people are coming because they like us and they like our family and they're friends of ours. They're not here to see this kind of show house they're not coming to buy the home, right? They're coming to see us. And I guess that's the same. It would be lovely to find a way in which people could meet the real Callum and meet the real Stoke and meet the real Nathan, and how we could do that in a safe environment, because that's another thing, right? Is embracing vulnerability, I guess. Like you just sometimes it's nice. I had a meeting with someone the other day, and they were like, right, no bullet points, no notes. I just want to talk. And I was like, wow.
How refreshing.
Okay, yeah. And yeah, it was at 6 o'clock. And normally in the evening, everything now is bang, 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 bang. So how can we access or speak to the real Callum?
I think it comes in, say, different environments. I think, obviously, within business, when you're dealing with different people, you kind of, I think one of the attributes of a good entrepreneur is being able to evolve to different situations, is being able to manage yourself in different ways. And I think, it's great, I think, in situations where it allows and you built up relationships to be able to let that guard down and show the real you. But equally, for me, I've always been, you have to portray your best image and what you want to do to achieve your mission, and I think unless you can achieve a kind of global change in attitudes, then it's going to be a really, really difficult task for people to be able to say, okay, great, you can act like that, or you can, because the person I'm at home is far more immature, and it's great.
We can all relate to that.
It's a completely different person, and the person I'm with my friends is a different person, but evolving into them different people. I guess as long as you let the real you is what you stand for, and the values and your mission, and as long as you let that shine through, and you don't hide your mission from people, and you don't hide your values, I think that's what the real you is. And I think the way you present it, it's how it comes across in different ways, and you have to obviously adapt that. But I think you should never try and hide what your values are and your mission. And then from anyone, I think you should always embrace it. And
so the core is the real you, and that core is present in every variation of you. And then the kind of different hats, jumpers, whatever you want to describe, are like the subtle variations. So you being a little bit more immature, you being a bit more mature, you in sales mode, you in friendship mode, you in relationship mode, or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's the same for everyone, and you just have to learn to adapt it. And the most important thing is don't lose your authenticity. Don't lose your kind of what you're there to do. And I think there's so many people now who are losing their authenticity because they're trying to impress other people, because they're trying to do things.
Social pressures.
Yeah, because of social pressures. And I think as long as you can maintain your authenticity, then you're onto a really, really great thing. And as long as you believe in it, then I think you can get there. Like with my recruitment work, I've taken quite an unorthodox approach, which is being very laissez-faire about it and promoting and trying to ensure that taking away the kind of profit element from it and looking at people, and because that's what I believe in, and I'm not going to change it because the tradition within the recruitment industry has been to be very, very profit orientated. For me, it's about people, and I love dealing with people, and I love seeing where people can go on to do or what they can go on to do. So I'm not going to change that because traditionally that's what you're expected to do, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, then I don't think you should change how you approach it if that's what believes to you. And it may be a longer process, but you have to believe in the process and believe in your judgment.
Great.
So if you look at, we've got about 5 more minutes, right? And for anyone that's listened to the first 5 minutes, they'll have a lot of inspiration. If you stay tuned for all 40 or 45, then Christ, I expect you all to be starting businesses tomorrow night. What a story. Now, the last thing I want to touch upon it is just a little bit of a plug on you, because you've been very good in giving up your time. I appreciate you're incredibly busy. And I know that right now, it's not selling headphones. It's not the kind of school and the matching up of jobs. You're doing 2 or 3 incredible things now. And I'd love to just find out a little bit more about them and to tell the audience that are watching and listening, what is it you're doing now, and how can people listening kind of get involved and find out what you're up to?
So the first thing we've got is a company called Electus Consulting. And what it is it's working in the recruitment industry and within a very niche area, which is financial systems, and going on to that enterprise performance management and business intelligence, which is really, really rapidly expanding. It's a really, really exciting industry to be in, with loads of and the people I deal with are far smarter than me, and they really, really intelligent people who are basically leading the digital transformation and how companies plan and budget and how companies operate on a day-to-day basis. And that's been really exciting for me. I got to meet with some really, really great people. But again, I've made some really, really fantastic partnerships with people around the world. I've got a really, really great partnership with a company in Arizona called Annovate Partners, who we're launching a skills factory, which is essentially a free program to give people skills required to go on to launch a career within this space. And for me, that was a kind of, this is what companies should be doing. We've seen a problem that there's a significant talent shortage. Rather than just trying to wait for someone else to fix it, we've gone out there to promote that, and that's really, really exciting. We've had really, really great feedback on that.
That was in Arizona, you say?
Yeah, in Arizona.
So everyone's like, oh, this guy, first of all, they judge your age, right? He's 19 years old. Okay, you get over that barrier. Next thing, he comes from Norwich. You get over that barrier, right? So 2 nonsense barriers, which I've said for years, right, are absolute garbage. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter where you come from. But it's still incredibly impressive that you're now talking to someone in Arizona.
I think that's the beauty of the internet.
Incredible.
The internet allows so many opportunities for you to sit there. There's times where I deal with companies in Sydney, and I'll be sat in my pajamas at my desk at home at 2 a.m. with a cup of tea, talking to a company
with a shirt on and your pants on like that.
a senior, I'm never making that mistake again. A senior, say, vice president of some massive companies, and you're sat there, and sometimes you have to sit. This is amazing that they don't know how old I am, and it's being judged on what I'm doing and what I'm saying, which is the beauty of it, because it doesn't matter when you're sat behind a computer screen or you're sat behind emails, what you can achieve, which doesn't matter your race, your colour, your background, you can really go on to achieve whatever, and that's the beauty of the internet and the opportunity that I guess all people who are watching this really need to see, that they can be who they want to be because the opportunities they've got. It doesn't matter where you come from or what you've done or who you are. You can go on to achieve anything.
So to summarise, I mean, that's been incredible, and I really, really appreciate you coming in. We both do. But I think that the last thing I'd like to leave on is this. So often in business, entrepreneurs don't take time to look at how far they've come. And the journey you've been on, and the kind of rapid expansion, and the talking to people in Arizona, and almost a global business is ridiculous. So for anyone listening, if you are an entrepreneur and you have set something up, please stop, take 5 minutes after you've listened to this, and just reflect on the journey you've come. I appreciate there may still be a long way to go, but at the same time, the journey in which you've come is sometimes quite remarkable, as is with Callum. And
celebrate your successes.
Exactly.
Every little small one.
Not enough people. There's so many people in the world that are prepared to dig you out, right? They're prepared to say, yeah, you've done all right, but what about that? But what about that? But actually, I'm sure you don't get enough of this, so it's remarkable what you've done.
Thank you very much.
You're a great
I think
chap.
everyone who's waking up in the morning and working to achieve something, and you're achieving something there, because there's so many people who aren't. So appreciate that you've got the drive, and appreciate where you can go. Appreciate what you've done, and every day that you're doing something is doing arguably something more than someone else in the world. And if you're working towards achieving something good that you believe in, then love every day of it, because if you don't love it, then what's the real point in doing it? So make sure you love it and appreciate every day, because they quickly go, and the stress comes in, and you have to appreciate that if you don't love the days, the stressful days have become 10 times worse. So
100%. Enjoy your wins and get perspective in your losses, right? And I think, so finally, where can people find out about you? How can people connect with you? And how can they follow your journey?
So LinkedIn, I'm a big push to become more kind of vocal and everything on LinkedIn. And it's quite hard. I'm still getting to grips with the talking and the typing about yourself. It's a bit of a journey, right? It's a weird thing. But yeah, LinkedIn, I'm trying to be as active, and I'm always really open to speaking with people and listening to people on LinkedIn and saying, "Oh, cool, taking time to go for a coffee."
I think we found each other on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think I found you from you saying trendy granddad, and it just stuck in my mind. And that shows
our marketing plan worked,
and it stuck in my mind. And then 6 months later, I gave you a call. And yeah, I think you've just got to stick to it. And go to LinkedIn and always open. Nothing can ever come wrong from having a coffee or having a talk. I think there was Mark Zuckerberg invited 6 people to his dorm to talk about Facebook, and 2 people turned up, and look where they are now. They're all billionaires. So there's nothing wrong with having a conversation.
Ask questions, and if you are asked for help, be prepared to give help and pay it forwards. And we've all got here through help. So thank you guys for listening and watching. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast, and I look forward to catching up on the next show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks.